I think everyone's in the room. I think we're mostly settled in, sitting, and let's begin. Hello, everyone. Hello. We have more people coming. I thought it was over, but it's still happening. Welcome. Are we good? We walked away. I assume we're good. We're good. Alrighty, so my name is Matthew Mercer. I'm a voice actor from Los Angeles. I work in video games and cartoons and play games and watch cartoons. All points in between. So this is a panel that is largely about cartoons and animation, all forms of cartoons animation. It doesn't have to be that way. It's going to be a Q&A format. I'll talk a little bit and then we'll do questions and answering, predominantly on the realm of cartoon voices, and we can expand from there into video games and other nerdy topics if you so feel inclined. But nevertheless, welcome to Making the Cartoons Talk. Woo! This jacket is way too thick for the inside of this panel room now. So it's now going to be the most unsexy stripping ever. Perfect. There we go. Thank you. The music was necessary. So yes, I've been doing voiceover for a living for 8 years now? 8 or 9 years. Since I left my last full-time job. 3 of them were very interesting years in between, meaning not having an income and having to survive in a very inexpensive city like Los Angeles. So that was an adventure in its own right. But I got my start in animation, specifically Japanese animation, anime, or as us older folk go, Japanimation. Nobody calls it that anymore for good reason. But yeah, so I've had the pleasure of working in a lot of anime. I've had the pleasure, especially more in recent years, to work on a lot of Western animation projects that I've worked on that you guys would probably know involve, as far as the anime side go, Levi in Attack on Titan, Mikisugi in Kill la Kill, Kuritsugu Emiya in Fate Zero, and then coming up, let's see, we have Sinbad and Magi, and soon on Toonami, Hunter x Hunter, where I play Leorio. So really excited about that. That is a fun series. That character is ridiculous. Leorio is ridiculous. Not quite Mikisugi ridiculous, it's a different kind of ridiculous, but he's ridiculous. And as far as Western animation goes, I've had the pleasure, I was Tigra in the Thundercats cartoon on Cartoon Network back in 2011. I've worked on a number of DC animated titles, like the Batman Bad Blood, I think it was just got recently. I'm voicing Bigfoot in The Wabbit, the new Bugs Bunny cartoon series that's been airing.
That's awesome.
Which is a lot of fun. That character's very different from what I usually do. It's like, hey lady, he's all up here. He's just very excited about the world around him. So he's a fun one. And I'm actually all over this next season of regular show on Adult Swim. So get to see them up there. See ya.
Cartoon Network.
It's on regular Cartoon Network now? Yeah. But at one point it was on Adult Swim when it first came out, wasn't it?
It was like right before. For Adult Swim, it was accepted in the Cartoon Network.
Oh, I see. That's where my confusion came from.
Yeah.
There we go.
The pilot's very adult.
Regardless, Adult Swim is part of Cartoon Network, though, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It's hazy.
Technicality.
Technically, it's its own.
we're all right. Yay! But yeah, so that's coming up, and a couple other fun surprises in the months to come. So that's my background in animation. In a nutshell, the projects I've worked on and are currently working on and hoping to work on more in the near future. Let us begin the Q&A, in which you will raise your hand and I will call upon you. You must stand. If you'd like to introduce your name, we'll say hello for a brief second and then ask your question. So, raise your hands. You, sir, with the glasses.
Hello, my name is Cody.
Hi, Cody.
Hi, Cody.
Let's turn into an AA meeting real fast.
So my question is, do you have a voice that you really wish that you could do in a show, like an anime, American cartoon, or a video game, you haven't got to be professional?
A voice I would love to do in a cartoon, video game, or anime that I haven't done professionally. One that's already been done. I mean, if they ever did an update or a continuation of Chrono Trigger, I'm all over Magus. Like, yes. Like, there will. If I have to kill, I have a place in the desert where they'll never find a body. It's already picked out.
Is that the same thing?
Oh, we're recording this.
Sephiroth?
Damn it!
Same thing about Sephiroth.
You really did.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Sephiroth is another character that I would love to voice, but George Newbern did an amazing job, and if somehow he befalls some terrible injury and can't reprise his role, I'll be right there, eagerly awaiting the phone call. So there are definitely characters I'd love to get a shot at. But a lot of times because I'm a fan of the character, because the original performer did such an amazing job as well, and so I would never wish to take that away from them. It just means I admire what they've done with that. But those are two very keen examples. As far as anime goes, I've honestly, the two characters I've kind of picked out in recent years were Levi and Trafalgar Law.
What?
And I somehow, those fell in my wheelhouse, and I was like, okay! Mark those off the bucket list. But yeah, so those are definitely the predominant examples.
So giddy that he's not-
Welcome, new folks, to the room. Yes. Oh, that's a nice introduction. Next question. Raise your hands. You with the blonde wig right there.
I'm Olivia.
Yes, and good to see you again, Olivia, and wondrous choice of costume, Miss Saber.
Thank you. I was wondering, speaking of Fates, what was your favorite moment in the Fate series or voicing Kiritsugu?
Okay, so she said in the Fate series, what was my favorite moment in the series or voicing as Kiritsugu? Fate Zero, if those who haven't seen it, I highly recommend you see it. It's one of the anime properties I'm probably the most proud of being a part of. It's beautifully animated, the music is incredible, the story is incredibly dark and deep, and the moral shades of gray that each character undergoes is it's very, very well fleshed out. And Kiritsugu especially, as a protagonist, is barely a protagonist in a lot of ways. And I've had the question many times, people ask me, of all the characters you voiced, if they all fought, who would win in a fight? I'd be like, well, they'd all fight in the middle, and then they'd all get sniped from a tower 2 miles away, where Kiritsugu lights a cigarette and is like, that was easy. So he's also kind of a badass. There are a lot of really great moments in that series. Many of them are really dark and twisted, specifically when we're dealing with, like, Castor. Any sort of Lovecraftian horror that's summoned from another plane to come and devour the life force of the masses. That's a fun moment. For Kiritsugu, I think one of my favorite moments of Kiritsugu is when you get a chance to look into his backstory. And I don't want to spoil anything for those who haven't seen it, but you see this very dark, cold, methodical, logically thinking individual that makes really, really dark and violent choices based on what he thinks is the morally right thing to do. It very much an ends justify the means type persona. And it isn't until late in Fate Zero that you get the opportunity to see his backstory and why he is the way he is. There's a specific moment where he has to make a choice. And those who've seen it would know what I'm talking about, where he has to make a very hard choice that'll lead to him losing a person that's very important to him. And you watch him break. You watch him break as a person. And there was a very interesting challenge as an actor doing that scene, but a very wonderful moment that really kind of got to the crux of his character. And I was very proud of that scene. It also was one of the few scenes that I legitimately just bawled in the booth. And we had to take like a 5-minute break afterwards. I was like, I can't, I'm emotionally spent. I'm good. Because Tony, the director, was like, all right, cool. So the next scene, I'm like, no. Next scene's in 5 minutes. I'm gonna take a walk. So yeah, I'm really proud of that sequence. And the fight with Kira is pretty badass too. Good question. All right, it's red wig there. Yes.
Hi, I'm Bethany.
Hi, Bethany.
Hi, Bethany.
It's so welcoming in here.
Recently I saw on a Twitter feed that you were tagged by Eden Rigel. Is there a new Resident Evil game coming out, or are we hoping for Resident Evil 7?
Hopefully. I've worked with Eden on quite a few projects, actually, and we're both recording an animated series together right now. She's awesome. I don't know. Capcom's an interesting company, and they've kind of alternated storylines and character focus depending on where they go. So if they are working on a Resident Evil 7, I don't know if Leon's involved, or if he is, if I'm involved as Leon. That's up to Capcom. They've kind of switched actors a lot. I'd love to reprise the role, I really would, but that's entirely up to them. I did hear they announced a new Leon CG movie, so fingers crossed on that. But But yeah, I haven't heard anything in particular about a Resident Evil 7 or they haven't contacted me about something like that yet. So if you'd like to see that, go ahead and contact Capcom on Twitter and be like, hey, we want Matthew Mercer, Xillia. And I'll be like, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's give the back some love here. You over by the door, miss, with your glasses.
Probably an unoriginal question, but what's your all-time favorite line that you use?
All-time favorite line? Oh, man. That's hard to pick. Like, the other characters have some super iconic lines. And many of them are kind of badass and fun.
Probably be the first one you think of.
The first ones I always think of are like Migisagi from Kill la Kill, because he has some really raunchy, ridiculous lines. Oh, man. Yeah, he does.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there was actually a lot revolving around the whole Big Ass Trees line and Attack on Titan. That was a lot of fun, because that was in the subtitles of like the original releases that went out. And then when the translation came back from Japan for the actual formal English recording, that wasn't how it was written. It was like, look around you, Aaron, notice the forest around you. And we recorded that line. And then as we began to do the con circuit with the voice announcements, all these fans kept asking about the Big Ass Trees line. I'm like, what was that line? And we began to find out that there was this whole kind of mini community based around how awesome his vulgar use of that phrase was, because he's a pretty vulgar person, Levi. He's really rough around the edges and just doesn't give a crap. And I love that. And so when we went back to do pickups for other lines of dialogue, I told this to Mike McFarlane, the director. He's like, oh, we have to change the line then. And so we went back in and re-recorded and put Big Ass Trees back in the show because of you guys. That's ever community feedback. So that one's a pretty fun one there. Yeah, man. There's been a lot of blooper lines that are fun too. Also Mikisagi. Gangbang Bitch is one. If you don't have context for that, even better. Yeah, those are some of the fun ones. There was one line from it was a Fist of the North Star game. We had to change it when we recorded it. But I was voicing the character Ray, who's green hair, mullet, like you do. And his special abilities, his technique allows him to cut people apart with his fingertips. And just kind of like these giant blades. And we were just banging through the script, just reading the lines, and we got to a line that I read out loud, cold read, and we didn't realize until afterward the context of how it sounded. As he shouts as he rushes into battle, "There's no way you can keep me from getting my fingers inside you." And so there was like an awkward pause, look over the director, looks at me, looks over at the producer. They talk quietly from behind the glass, and he turns back to me and then hits the button and is like, hold tight, we're gonna go ahead and workshop that line a little bit there. So that was memorable. And then there's the classic at the end of Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yeah!
At the very end of the game, it's the final sequence. I'm not gonna do spoiler stuff, but it's like a nice, beautiful sequence where Crom is kind of looking at you through first-person view, and he takes your hand and lifts you up, and he whispers to you. And the English dialogue in the script didn't match the lip flaps. It was very specifically animated to, be certain sounds, certain consonants and vowel sounds, and the English originally wasn't fitting it. And so me and Patrick Seiss, the director, were trying to figure it out. And those of you in my panels before, you probably heard the story already, but they were trying to figure it out. And I look at it, and I'm looking at the sequence over and over again, and I'm like, I got it, just roll. I got one, it'll work. And it's like, okay, great. And they hit record, and the beeps go through, and Crom smiling, blue sky matching his eyes, his hair blowing gently in the breeze midday. He takes your hand and pulls you up into his face, and he kind of has that perfect Bishi framing, and he goes, I can see your butthole. It perfectly matches his dialogue. Sadly, they didn't keep it for the final version. I think it would have been a great little button on the end of the story of Awakening, but oh well. Good question. All right, so let's bring it around over to the front. Yusuf.
I was just wondering, have you heard other voice actors do things and you try to get the same sound, but is there anything that your voice can't physically do that you wish it could?
Oh, there's plenty of things my voice can't do that I wish it physically could. I wish I can get an even richer, deep, resonant bass that people like Travis Willingham or Fred can do. Fred Tatasciore, who's he's the voice of the Hulk on, for most of the Marvel stuff. He's just got this great resonance to his voice. Conversely, I love doing monster and creature sounds, and I've done it for a lot of projects, but D. Bradley Baker the stuff he can do is insane. He can get multiple tones from his throat by just pinching certain places. Like, I'm pretty happy with somebody like, but he can do both those at once, and you're like, you're an alien. There's no other answer. It's the only way. And it's even more fun to watch him in the booth do it, because he's like going, if you go on YouTube and look up videos, D. Bradley Baker monster noises, you have wonderful examples of him. Him and Frank Welker both can do the craziest things with their voice. And it is, but it's so inspiring also, because here's the thing, watching what they do, in itself you learn. Like, watching how he can pinch his nose, and even just the simple noise here, you're like, oh yeah, it makes your nose a little noisier, or a little, kind of pinch sounding. But if you combine that with like a sound, it makes it sound smaller and more compressed, like a pig. Or when you pinch the throat here, it can give you this kind of strange, constrained sound. But you take that same sound and pinch and go, you wouldn't know that would make a difference until you watch this crazy man in front of a microphone make up an entire alien race. And it's incredible. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I can't do in my voice that I'd love to. But you hope to try and learn from what these people can do to create your own sounds. It's one thing to imitate, it's another to try and find something new that you can offer to it. If anyone wants to watch something really fun, look up on YouTube, Frank Welker Lion King. It's just that man and like a little metal trash can and a microphone, and he's doing the most believable lion fight sounds you've ever heard in your life. And it was like in the early 90s, late 80s, so he looked like everyone's plumber. Like a Florida button-up shirt. It's amazing. It's cut right out of time. But yeah, these people do incredible stuff. But you also learn from them. I would say another example, Corey Burton, who I worked with on Thundercats, he had a way of changing his face to certain character voices, and I've borrowed one from him, where just from a sinus circumstance, he would do this older British noble type voice, and he would pinch up his face. It elevated this sort of nasally sound that was part of the classic British villain type presentation. And I adopted that since then, and it's made that sound to me a lot more believable, strangely. And so you can only learn from these people that can do stuff that you can't. And while you can't achieve a lot of what they can do, it can definitely expand your repertoire. That's my very long-winded answer. I hope you liked it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, man. Oh, there's a lot of hands. You're holding a giant gun. I have to say yes. That's right.
Okay, what's your favorite voice you guys randomly break into, and like the most random time?
Oh, I have two voices I break into at random times. One of them is my kind of Woody Allen-ish, awkward. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to make this awkward for both of us. I was trying to deposit my checks at the bank, and you came up to me, and I'm really bad with interpersonal contact. I should go. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go. I do that very often, probably because I get really awkward very easily, and that's my little way of kind of shrugging it off. But more often than not, I get strangely awkward New York Jew. It's very strange. The other one is the Scottish brogue. It's my favorite dialect ever. And for me, there's something about the Scots that just it's fun to say. It's round and it rolls off the tongue, and it's interesting and unique and sounds entirely different from what you'd expect it to. Don't go too strong. I mean, dwarfs are fun in your classic sort of Hearthstone style. I'm a dwarf. So like a casual dialect or a softer brogue to me, it's almost poetic in the way it sounds, and that like, oh, come on, sir, have a drink with me, have a few pints, and we'll talk about your days. But it's something about that just sounds melodic and almost like it was written in scripture. I don't know, I love it. Which is also why I like Craig Ferguson, listening to him talk. I can listen to him forever. It's great. Yeah, those are my usual two psychotic go-tos. All right, next question. Sonic?
Hey, I'm Lisa.
Hi, Lisa!
I was wondering, so like, I'm usually used to you doing, deeper for voice characters. What's the highest voice you've ever had? That sounds kind of weird. What's the highest voice you've ever had to do?
There's a character I'm doing right now in a cartoon that will probably never see the light of day in the U.S. Well, because it's like a Chinese company that's paying for it, that they're having us do in English, and then they're going to dub it in Chinese and bring it over to China. I don't know. It's weird, but they pay. And it's got a great cast. It's one of the ones I'm working on with Eden Rico. And but I do two characters for it. One's this kind of yak guy, and it's this youngish yak hero. It's kind of a hero's journey type thing where this magical deer has his friends from the wild, and I'm an ice yak, you know, and so I follow him around and shoot ice from my nose like you do. And the other character in this series is a creature called a coyote, who's this tiny little powerhouse that can grow big when he eats berries of a certain kind, I guess. His name is Kem, but his voice is all up here. He's like, hey guys, come, follow me down this way. Oh, that didn't work out well. You know, and so the whole character is just this sort of falsetto, high voice type circumstance. And that's a really interesting challenge if you've had a very deep session beforehand. Yeah, that's probably one of the higher ones I've done before. I've done a few kids' voices. Actually, Sailor Moon. I can't remember the character's name. He only shows up in Crystal a few episodes, and but he's like this younger student who has a crush on this one character, and the kid's like 12. And like I'm finishing a session as Prince Demand, like, can you do this guy too? I'm like, oh, okay, let's give it a shot. And he's also just kind of right here, you know, he wants to show his appreciation and really kind of exhibit his interest in this girl, but she's not really paying attention. So it's finding that softer palette, that finding the voice type speech where it exhibits youth, but it's not too, hopefully, forced. So yeah, those are the more high-pitched. They're coming here and there. You kind of get pigeonholed at first.
What's the name of the cartoon?
They don't know yet. They've fluctuated on it. Welcome to production, where everyone kind of thinks they know what's happening sometimes. Yeah, there was Magic Deer, then it was called Vault the Wonder Deer, and I don't know where it is now.
All right.
It's probably not for this audience. It's probably a little younger. A lot younger. But it's fun.
The ice.
And it pays. Next question. You've had your hand up quite a few times there, dude.
Yeah.
What's your name?
I'm Leah.
Hi, Leah.
I know.
So I've dabbled in a little bit of voice acting for an animation project that I do at my school.
Nice.
And I know how many takes it takes.
Mm-hmm.
So how awkward is it, and how many takes does it take for Fire Emblem when you're doing Crom? Because he's always like,
Well, for stuff like that, for video game projects that don't have a specific time signature you have to follow per se, it's a little more flexible. And for a character like Crom, we had an entire day of recording on him that was just reaction sounds like that. Usually what we do is we do sets of 3. So we'll have a full list of the emotional beat, a basic typing of what the sound is, like HMMMM ... you know, and the little note that says contemplating. And then there'll be like HMMMM question mark, which is contemplative question, you know, and then they'll have like HMM period, which is yes or confirmation. All look the same, but you have to interpret those separately. So then we'll do sets of 3. So I'll go to the first one and be like, And the director will pick which one they like the best, or they'll send all 3 off to Nintendo and they'll pick. Then you get the next one, which is, And they'll take those 3 and make their best choice, or if they didn't quite get what they wanted, they'll have you do a second set. But you do 3 of those because they're relatively small. It's easier to let you kind of feel out the variations before they have to nitpick each specific performance, because they're so tiny. Then you get the last one, which is, very classic Japanese anime confirmation. So for those, not so many takes for that. When it comes to matching lip flap for a lot of Japanese animation elements, those can be a little more time-consuming depending on how specific the lip flaps are. If it's one of those kind of cheaper animation houses where just ba 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 ba, it's not so difficult to match necessarily. But if it's a higher quality animation, it can be a little more specific. And on those, most professionals average somewhere between 30 to 35 lines recorded in an hour. That includes tracking through script, taking multiple takes, changing for size and time, and stopping for context, and seeing previews of the scene before you record it. So, and just through experience, you get faster and faster, and eventually you can get better rates than that. But that's, so looking at like one line every minute and a half, 2 minutes per se. And those can be really short lines and sound reacts. And those can be bigger, long lines of dialogue, which are broken up into pieces too. So it varies and depends. But yeah, it's just something you get more comfortable with. You get comfortable with cold reading through experience, and usually they break it down into smaller chunks. So when you're having to match the beats, you don't have to do giant pieces at a time, which that would be insane.
Been there, done that.
Oh yeah.
Didn't work.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that. Otherwise, you'll end up wasting a lot more time trying to fit it into a smaller space, where you can instead take it into smaller bits and get it done a lot faster. Good on you.
All right, let's go ahead and you, sir, will us like a sort of a Goku get up over there.
Hi, Robert. So what made me want to voice act, and what do I suggest people who want to get into it? Acting kind of fell in my lap. I was actually planning to become an illustrator, 2D, 3D animation, and for most of my life, up until graduating high school, I did the Studio Art AP exam and was accepted at CalArts for 2D, 3D animation, and that was my big push. But it was my freshman year of high school that I met the theater teacher at my school, who, through a brief conversation, just asked me, "Why don't you go ahead and audition for this show we're doing?" I'm like, "I'm not an actor." He's like, "Just give it a shot, audition for me, just as a favor." I'm like, "Okay." It was for The Crucible, which is a wonderful stage production, and I ended up booking the character Reverend Hale. And so that was my first experience acting on stage, and I was kind of like, "Okay, well, this is happening, let's give it a shot." I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. And from there, I began to roll in my interest in the visual storytelling and narrative of animation with creating a narrative for myself, which played into my love of role-playing games that I played on the side as well. And so acting was this great little nexus of all the things I enjoyed about storytelling. And as I began to get closer and closer to my goal of becoming an illustrator for an actual job, I began to realize that wasn't my passion anymore. I had a lot of friends who were so much better than me at it, and I just wasn't growing at the pace I felt where I could be competitive in that industry. So I decided, before I threw myself into a lot of student loans with something that I wasn't fully on board for, I was going to go ahead and hold off. And that dream kind of went away. But another one came in and went, "Hey, this is also equally difficult and weird. Why are you choosing this for a living now? What's wrong with you?" But yeah, so my real inspiration to become an actor was, one, having an example or a chance to see if it was for me, and then once it did, realize that I love video games, I love cartoons, and have my entire life. If I can take these two passions and combine them, that to me would be hopefully a very fulfilling experience, and it was a very difficult trek. For anybody who wants to get into this, to tap onto the second part of this question, I want to be as honest as possible in this. It is hard. It is competitive. You have to go where the work is, and wherever the work is, it's expensive to live there, and every single audition is going up against hundreds and hundreds of other people. So you have to be prepared for that. And I don't mean this to try and set you off, but understand, going into that ring, you're going to have a lot of rejection. I have a lot of rejections. Still to this day, I audition a lot, and a lot of things I don't hear from ever again. That's just the nature of the industry. It's a lot of rejection. So you have to prepare yourself for that type of an atmosphere, and you have to know that you're coming to throw yourself in the ring with me. Throw in with Troy, throwing in with Tara Strong, and so to step into that ring, you have to make sure that you are ready, that you have put in the time to be at the very best you can be. Raw talent is great, and there are people with incredible raw talent. Now imagine how good you could be if you took that raw talent and brought some proper training to it. If you took different classes on acting technique, you studied scene study and character study, you learned how to cold read very well to the point where you could be given any line of dialogue and make those conscious choices to drive the scene at the drop of a dime. And so my advice to you is, if that's something you want to go into, take what instinct you have already and continue to hone that for the rest of your life. You never can stop and be like, "Cool, I'm as good as I'll be." That's the moment that you stop growing as a performer and as a person. And I believe, one of the main meanings of life is to continue to keep learning and keep bettering yourself, and from a state of humility. So see what you can and find in your area ways that you can improve your craft and have the opportunities to learn from people who've come before you and have learned a lot through their own life experiences as well. So when you do decide to make that risky move into the industry, you can do so guns blazing and fist swinging, as opposed to, hey guys, is it cool if I sit here? Is that all right? I'd say, oh, okay, no, I'll come back later. No, you want to come there and be like, I'm here, cast me. And if they say no, you go, why? How about now? They go, no. You're like, how about now? They go, no. 3 years later, you're like, how about now? I'm like, all right, fine. You're like, yay. That's kind of how it is. A lot of people move out to LA or New York, and 6 months later, they're like, I can't do it. It's too much failure. And they move back and never pursue it again. And you know what? Maybe it wasn't for you then. It's the folks that persevere amongst the constant barrage of rejection. Those are the folks that end up forging a career. Because you can take it with the tough skin and prove yourself amongst that. And that means a lot. That stands up for a lot in this industry. So I hope that's helpful. Awesome.
All right, let's go get a question over. You in the very back, sir. Yes.
Hi, I'm Devin.
Hi, Devin.
Hi, Devin.
Whenever you give me certain moves, let's say you're sarcastic, do you ever switch to like the voice viewing critical role for the front desk man of the no, I'm getting deep, but it's too late.
It's all good.
It's run by the Sphinx, and his wife is the Keyblade, who masters it all.
Merton, yes.
Yes. Do you ever like, do you use his voice when you're sarcastic, or do you use other characters' emotions for your moves?
That's interesting. Using character voices for certain moods. I definitely go orcish when I get angry. That's very much thankfully, I don't get angry too often. I will for sarcasm. For sarcasm, I tend to go very RP British for some reason. Like Merton's a great character, but no one does sarcasm better than the British. Like they have that on lock, man. So this is something about, yes, of course, I'd love to. Oh no, I'm completely interested in what you're saying. Go on. No, it's a wonderful color. Seriously, you should wear it every day. They were designed for it. So how can I not follow suit? I say this as a person of somewhat British heritage, and I'm damn proud of that sarcastic beat in my blood.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Good question. All right, let's go. I hate this then.
I was gonna ask if you've heard anything about the new Fairy Fencer game, because on GameStop it says they have all new English voices, and I'm not really looking forward to seeing everybody replaced. I didn't know if you knew anything.
I think all new, they mean like it has new dialogue recorded, because
Okay.
as far as I know, there may have been sessions.
All right, I just would be freaked if like somebody else besides Christina V played Pippin, because that's like something I don't think anybody else
Right.
could do.
I can't confirm anything,
Right.
but I think that perhaps there may have been sessions recorded for a newer title. Perhaps, maybe.
Perhaps that's good to know.
It is perhaps a possibility. I mean, maybe this world or the next, I know not. Next question. Let's see, let's go. You, sir, sitting in the very back on the ground. You! Huh? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. So you're far away from me. JB, hi! Hi, JB!
What is your favorite Mikasugi moment that you've ever recorded?
Oh, man. The nudist beach line was so fun. We did many variations on it, but the whole eventual kind of his reveal of what it is to Ryuko's whole like, we call ourselves Nudist Beach. What? Nudist Beach. Nudist Beach. It's like just shirt open, gleaming from the sky, behind them birds fly. It's so absurd. That was a lot of fun. He has a lot of silly innuendo, but he has a lot of great kind of expositional monologues, especially when he talks about the whole history of the life fibers, and you start seeing him in outfits from all the different time periods of human civilization. But yeah, the nudist beach line definitely carried a bit of significance for me on that one. It was fun. Good question, Jake.
All right. So, let's go. You, sir.
What are some special steps you take to take care of your voice?
Special steps to take care of one's voice. It's a good question. For one, knowing when your voice is hurting, how to stop. I think I mentioned this in the last panel, but if you're doing an extensive session or any sort of speaking that is starting to strain your voice, you don't want to push yourself so far to where you're tasting blood, because you can do permanent damage. Secondly, if you are doing a lot of talking, having water nearby at all times, if not tea. Throat coat's a really great tea that helps just preserve that type of vocal lubrication, which is really good. There is a specific substance that Fred Tatasciore kind of popularized in the VO community called Ninjom Pepakwa. It's a Chinese cough syrup that you can find on Amazon, I found out, after like having to walk into some really seedy Gremlin-style Chinese pharmacies in downtown LA to find it. But it's this thick kind of sweet syrup that you can take spoonfuls of and let it kind of coat the back of your throat and kind of helps preserve any sort of impact that your voice would have for a short time. So those help. Warm-ups before any sort of long-term speaking. Those include vocal singing warm-ups, like doing scales or just warming up your voice with singing certain songs that are good for your range, as well as breathing exercises. Because proper breathing is a big thing. People think, oh, if your voice hurts, whisper. That'll help preserve it. Whispering is actually more impactful on your vocal cords than speaking because it requires more air to go through to get the same level of volume across. Something you don't consider. So whispering actually is more damaging to your vocal cords if they're sore. It's actually better to speak out, or better yet, don't speak at all. Get a pad. Write your things down. You could be that guy. But yeah, those are all pretty standard, helpful tips to preserve your voice. I found that if you're starting to go to, I'll get like a nice thick cream of chicken soup or something like that, and put as much cayenne pepper in there as I can stand. It'll burn, but it also kind of helps bring the blood vessels close to the surface. Or if it doesn't, it's a great placebo because it makes me feel better afterward. But yeah, those are my main suggestions there. Good man. All right. It's hands. A lot of hands. All right, I'm going to try to start going through questions quick so I can get as many people as I can. We'll start over here. Hello.
Hi, I'm Void.
Hi, Boyd.
Hello.
That's right, her name's Void. It's like the coolest name ever.
Thank you. What's it like seeing people cosplay characters in voice? You're just kind of like, well, you're me, or like, what's that like?
What do I feel when I see people cosplaying characters that I voice? I'm excited every time. It's cool because it's like I immediately have a connection to that person. I'm like, we're the same person, kind of. It's weird. And it's cool for me because I mean, before I got into voiceover, I was pretty steeped in geek con culture, and I actually for many years did cosplay. It was an excuse to do costumes outside of Halloween. It's the best thing ever. And so for me to go from that to being in a place where other people are cosplaying something that I've performed, it's this wonderful kind of geek full circle for me from where I started in this whole industry. And I can't help but get giddy every time I see it. I have to run up and hug them and take pictures and stuff. Especially if they don't recognize me, which is even better. It's like, why is this guy so weird to me right now? And I walk away and they spend the rest of the day going, well, avoid that dude. It's for the best. Because I can get really way too fanboy on those types of characters. But yes, I get really excited. Let's see. Let's working our way through the room. Here, you miss in the red shirt.
So you said you cosplayed.
Yes.
What have you cosplayed?
What have I cosplayed?
Yes.
I've cosplayed Cloud Strife, Sephiroth, Final Fantasy VII.
Mugatu!
Mugatu from
that.
Zoolander.
Awesome.
Heck yeah, man. We had a Zoolander group for Dragon Con back in 2004.
That's awesome.
Rad. Which we meant to cast a Firefly dressed as, and we were like, Firefly! And they were like, Zoolander! It was awesome. God, I cosplay as Danny Beaky from Street Fighter, because Danny Beaky's amazing. Psycho style, forever. I've cosplayed Sang from Final Fantasy VII. There's a little big Final Fantasy VII theme here. Hojo from Final Fantasy VII. I may have played it a few times. Raphael from Soul Calibur 2. We had the cool kind of vampiric armor. Oh man, a bunch of stuff. I spent a lot of money on my costumes. But yeah.
Do you miss it?
I do miss it, and I find when I do have a chance of like a friend's themed birthday party or when Halloween does come around, that's my time to kind of relive those skills that I picked up on that. Recently, for this past Halloween on Critical Role, I finally got the gumption to put together my Geralt of Rivia from Witcher 3 costume. And that was like it was a month endeavor, man. It's way too much money spent and way too much time spent, and nobody saw me for all of October. They're like, is Matt dead? No, he's just making chainmail. So yeah, I still have my outlets when I miss it, but I got to a point where it took too much time and I didn't have any money because I was wanting to be an actor. Like I said before, it was really tight budgetary time, so I had to kind of let go of that hobby to pursue this career. Now I'm hoping to bring it back. But yeah, good question.
All right, let's go. You in the way back with the blue top and the brown wig. Yes.
This is probably a stupid question, but this was to the Sailor Moon thing when you say you were low light.
Yeah.
Now, love interest, I think it was Minnie Moon.
It was a right. No, it wasn't her. The character I was playing, he was kind of like, he was another student, and he was interested in one of the other Sailor Scouts. Was what? I don't remember. He only had a couple episodes. Might have been long brown hair.
Oh, wait, no, that's Jupiter.
Yeah, it's Jupiter. It's a.
Venus is blonde hair.
Right. No. It was Jupiter then, and he had a crush on her, and then she kissed his forehead at the end, and he got all blushy. But yeah, I played him. I recorded that after my other character got shot by a planet. If you've seen the series, you know what I'm talking about. It's a weird way to go, man. Rough way to go. Good question. All right, let's start scooting around this way and we'll come back around. Yes. Yes?
All right.
You're the only one in the area with a hand up, sir.
Based off of something you said earlier, you said you fanboyed when you met Jim Cummings.
Yes.
Is there another actor you hope to meet at some point in time that you would just die to meet?
All right, so I fanboyed heavily on Jim Cummings when I got to meet with him on a session. Is there an actor I would fanboy on? Frank Welker, once again. Like I've not had a session with him yet, and I want to so badly. I have met Mark Hamill, and that was a big fanboy moment, which was even funnier because it literally was a few days. I was going in for a session, a regular show, and he was coming out. And I was like, I just saw you in the new Star Wars movie. Can I just say it out loud? It's only what every person has said to him for the past week. God damn it, Matt, really? So yeah, there was that. He was really cool and really cordial, and that was a big nerd moment. I did get to walk out of a Call of Duty session for one of the Black Ops games, and Gary Oldman was waiting outside of the session. I was like, oh, hi! Like, what do you do? And then Keith, who was the director on that, he's like, oh, Matt, this is my buddy Gary. I'm like, I know. So that was pretty cool. It was a really brief interaction. It was literally like a handshake and a smile, and then I left and went like, I gotta go home. So yeah, those were some pretty big family moments. I would love to work with Frank Welker. I would, man, I haven't worked with Cree Summer yet, and she's amazing too. I would love to work with her. We've gotten close. We have a lot of mutual friends in concentric circles. We just keep missing each other. So soon. Then I'll do the same, like, you're Elmira. It'll be bad. All right, next question. Oh, I see Lucina. I have to. I'm biased, guys. Sorry.
I was curious, actually, Byron, with a question. Who did you like voicing more, Crom or Ryoma?
Who do I like voicing more, Crom or Ryoma?
Yeah.
Man, well, Crom is a little more dynamic, and he's more at the forefront of the story. So I got to kind of expand more and play more in his space and his story, and he had a lot of emotional beats. Ryoma shares the stage a little more, and he's because he's older, he's very set and sure in his personality. I do like that he's very strong and he's very protective. And depending on what side of the story you go to, he can get very angry. But even he has his subtleties and his emotional beats too. But I think for me, as an actor, I found Crom was a little more interesting just because I got to do more with him. But I really enjoyed Ryoma. Azama was actually a lot of fun because who doesn't love a nihilist monk? And Shigure has been interesting because it's forced me to sing. So.
Oh, I want to hear that.
Oh man, that song's still stuck in my head. Let's see, question over here. Please right there, hello.
Hello, my name's Tess. And
Hi, Tess.
Hi, Tess. I was wondering, what was your favorite moment during Persona 4 when voicing Kanji?
Oh man, any moment where I got to do Shadow Kanji was a blast. Yeah. Well, no, Kanji's one of those great characters that I feel represents a personal journey that not a lot of media really tackles, and I feel, and it is a journey that's not definitive either, because it really isn't. You know, everyone's kind of still finding themselves, and he, especially in that age period, is there's a lot of self discovery, and his whole arc is fantastic, and it was a really big honor to be able to pick up that mantle. So for me, I jokingly say Shadow Kanji, but also those moments were great for Kanji himself, because there was moments of self-reflection, him facing his greatest fear and realizing that it really wasn't anything to fear in that circumstance. Or any of the moments where he finds something adorable. Those are pretty great. Or whenever Naruto comes by and he can't function at all as a proper human being, that's pretty great too. I think there was also a moment in, I believe it was the anime, where they had the cross-dressing contest, the fashion contest, and Kanji got way too excited about being dolled up as the girl and actually pulled off like the most beefcakiest of awesome kind of Marilyn Monroe looking ladies, and he was like, yeah! That was pretty fun. Good question. All right, we've got time for just about 15 minutes, so I can get through some few of these. Start cranking these out, people. All right, you sit in the front. You've been very patient.
All right. As somebody who is ostensibly a mature, responsible adult and are thus very busy, how do you find time for all of your hobbies still?
You think I'm mature and responsible?
I said ostensibly.
Ostensibly, no, true enough. How do I find time? That is the question. It's hard to, especially in this career where you kind of have to always be present and be ready. And pursuing my hobbies and interests that have, at least in the past year, really taken off in a way I wasn't expecting. You have to be conscious to not lose sight of the things that make you who you are and important. Balancing all that with a relationship, and I'm very happy with a wonderful woman who's been by my side for the past 5 years coming up now. And I don't want to ever make her feel, that she's not getting the attention she deserves as well. And also I have a lot of close friends of mine that I've known for many years that have supported me through this as well, that we're all doing adult things now and, getting bigger jobs and paying new bills, and it's weird. I'm at that point in my life now where I went from the 20s going into my mid-30s now, where I'm like, oh man, I'm an adult and I having to be responsible and I'm not being able to do all the things I want to do. And a lot of that is, for me, this transition period is learning, one, how to say no. You don't want to overwork yourself. And, if you have a lot of things coming at your way, you have to find the balance between how busy do you want to be versus how happy do you want to be. And,
One more time.
And then I'm going to bring this down to a serious beat here for a second, but there is something to be said about financial security versus emotional security. And for me, at least from my opinion, I'd rather be dirt poor and be surrounded with good people and have had good experiences than to have all the money in the world and never leave my place. And so for me, I'm learning how to say no to things going forward, because I want to leave that time open to the few people that I really appreciate in my life. And so that's been the challenge for me in recent years. I've had points, and in fact, my last relationship, I think, really suffered because I was in the process of trying to pursue this career so heavily. And in the long run, it wasn't good for either of us, but there was an issue there where I think I did put too much focus on trying to achieve this at the time, and in doing so, there was unintentional neglect in that aspect as well. So hard lessons were learned there that I'm hoping to use going forward and make sure I don't repeat those same mistakes. So finding time for me now, it's trimming down my life. It's, not having a sea of acquaintances, but finding the handful of people that really mean something to me and spending quality time with them one-on-one whenever I can, trying to carve out time for the things that make me happy as a person, playing the games that I really want to play, and forcing myself to sit down and do it. And when I get too stressed out and too many things going on around me, find which things I don't need and cut them free, because you will drive yourself insane otherwise. I've seen it happen. I've had it happen to me before. So that's a strangely, delightfully philosophical question. Thank you.
For life lessons.
Yes. All right. You've had your hand up for a while too, my dear, and then we'll start working through here.
Hi, I'm Kellyanne.
Hi, Kellyanne.
binge watch your shows that you've been in? And if you do you ever nitpick the things that didn't go right or the things in the tapes that you weren't like 100% sure of?
Interesting question. I binge watch some of the shows that I work on, shows that are more my style. There are some shows I work on that I'm like, I didn't binge watch Brothers Conflict because the reverse harem thing might not be my genre of anime. Plus, I already recorded it, so I kind of know what happened. Or conversely, Diamond Dollar. This is a very different series. But, you know, Attack on Titan was something that I was already really into, and before I even recorded it, I binge watched it. And Fate Zero, when we finished it, I was so proud of it, I binge watched it. And so a lot of games and projects that I work on, I do play or watch afterward. And it is hard to not be critical, or at least have a critical ear when you're listening to your performance back over. Some projects, you don't get a whole lot of context, and you'd be watching it back and be like, oh man, they had told me the guy was like right in his face, I wouldn't have been so loud in that line delivery, or, you know, if I had known that there was this much danger in the circumstance, I would have put more fear in my voice. So, you know, yeah, there are moments where you kind of look back and are a little critical of maybe not having all the information at your disposal when you were recording. But I try to step away from that and also just enjoy it for what it is too, which is difficult, and that's a learning experience for me as well, because it's hard when you're that steeped into it, especially if you're working on a project that you're really, really excited about. You're like, oh man, I'm so, like for me, I'm like, yeah, Fallout 4, I'm so glad I can be part of Fallout 4, yes. I already know all the story elements before I play it now. Poop, you know? So that is the other drawback too. So you do get kind of robbed of some of the surprise when you get to work on the projects that you're really looking forward to, but I wouldn't trade it. Good question. All right, so we'll stop cruising to this way of the room. You've had your hand up for a bit there, too.
Hi, my name's Sierra.
Hi, Sierra.
Hi, Sierra. I was wondering, my favorite character of Attack on Titan is Levi, and I was wondering, what made you want to play him?
This is an interesting question. What made me want to play Levi? When I first watched the series, before I was cast, and I had already auditioned for it. Because I'd heard about it and I auditioned for it. Was like, I should probably watch a couple episodes of this. It seems like a thing people like. And then binge watch the entire thing in pretty much one sitting. What I liked about Levi was, on the surface, he's the badass. He's the cold, dark hero that everyone's like, oh, look at that guy. He's so badass and the cold, dark hero. And it's hard not to like that already. What I did like were the subtleties to his character. The fact that a lot of that is a mask. A lot of that is this persona that he kind of has to maintain because he is the last hope for humanity in a lot of people's eyes. And if he shows any crack in that facade, people are going to lose hope. You know, as long as Levi doesn't give a shit, as long as Levi's up there on that wall when everyone else is screaming and is like, I got this, then things will be okay. And that's what he represents for this, you know, this city, for these people. And so you can see certain moments where he is emotionally cut, where he knows he has to treat, you know, people really harshly, including Aaron, to get them to be the best they can be, even though he might want to not reach out so harshly personally. When he watches his squad have a bad day, in case anyone hasn't seen it, each one of those moments, each one of those beats you can see in his eyes, those are cutting him from the inside, but he can't even stop to take in any sort of real pain or loss, because the moment he does, he loses his edge in combat, and the people that are looking to him to be their rock all of a sudden lose their rock. And so that to me was a very intriguing facet to his personality, and I was really excited at the prospect of bringing those subtleties and layers into the show as it progresses. So that was a huge thing I was looking forward to with Levi. Good question. Thank you. All right, green hair, and then we're gonna go to the you in the black with the hood, the black hood thing, and then we'll come over here. So yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Brad, I wanted to.
Hi, Brad.
Huge fan. But I remember being about 13 years old, being in a summer camp cafeteria, and being told, you need to watch this great new thing called There Will Be Brawl.
Oh, no.
I just wanted to hear just how directing that was, because it's been a long time, and I actually looked up your VTBA, and I saw that you were the director of that, and I was like, oh, God, dude, that's cool. Do you have anything to say about that experience?
Yeah, so to go over this quick, for those who haven't seen it, I directed and performed in a web series called There Will Be Brawl back in 2009. It was back when web series were just kind of really emerging on the internet, and it was the first thing I directed. It's live action, film noir, kind of HBO crime drama version of the Nintendo universe.
Oh.
And deals with like a cannibal Kirby who had gone through a murder spree 5 years before, but had since been in prison. But now there are a series of copycat murders happening in this dystopian mushroom kingdom. The Mario Brothers have fallen from grace, and the main character is Luigi in a trench coat, who's now trying to find out this kind of a subtle dark noir story as this power vacuum is present. It's really, it's adult, it's intense. The first episode has like Mario Peach sex scene in it. You know, it's be prepared. But we had a great time working on it. We had no budget, and we had a lot of ideas that we didn't know how we were going to pull it off, and I learned to edit and do post effects on it for this particular project. And it was a great learning experience. I met some of my best friends to this day from that project, but it nearly killed me because overall the whole series is about 3.5 hours long, over 10 episodes, with a number of effect shots and location changes and elaborate costumes, and I had my hands deeply placed in many of those aspects. So yeah, it was. I'm very proud of it, and a lot of good came out of it. But man, I threw out my back editing that. I didn't know you could throw your back out from sitting too long, but I did. It sucked. The longest I've gone without sleep was because of that series. The final episode we were trying to deliver before the end of the year, and I was up for 72 hours without sleep trying to edit before I passed out at the keyboard, and in my dream, edited an entire scene that doesn't exist. And so to this day, the episode's been done, but every single time I see it, I feel like I'm missing something because that scene that doesn't exist should be there, but it's not because it didn't happen. That's a problem. But no, I was very, very proud of that series, and a lot of good came out of it. And if you ever guys are bored and want to watch something ridiculous, you should go watch There Will Be Brawl and watch me play Ganondorf. Woo! And Kirby and Meta Knight. So
Kirby's a fun kind of Kirby.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun golem.
All right, and yes, no question.
Hi, I was wondering, how hard are these in your basement, so to speak, to get voiceover jobs? And if there's a project that you really want to be a part of, that you're like a fan of, is it possible to get in there and be like, hey, cast me, or something like that, you know?
Pounding the pavement involves getting experience in the industry, and the best way you can do that is find local places to get experience behind a microphone. That involves local radio stations, reading commercial copy for them, for local commercial stuff, or even just practicing as an intern at these stations and learning how the tech aspects work and meeting people and networking there. Also, finding classes and workshops that are in your area that teach techniques, and having that experience not only is good on a resume, but it gives you some face time with somebody who is remotely involved in the industry. When you're feeling comfortable enough, you can drop a little bit of money and get a nice, and nowadays they're really inexpensive comparably, a USB microphone for your home computer. And then you can begin, I'm losing all muscle control apparently, and begin practicing at home. And then you can start recording your auditions with plenty of, there's Audacity, a number of other great free audio software online that you can use. It's pretty decent quality to record and submit MP3s of any auditions you want to do. Once you've achieved that point, you can go to online communities that do submissions. I know Voices 123 has a really great community there. You can go onto Actors Access or any other what are called breakdown services or breakdown websites, which is where people who are casting for projects will put up what are called breakdowns, which is, we need to cast these characters, submit to this email your auditions. They do it for on-camera, for local and small independent film projects, and for low-budget independent audio projects as well. Audiobooks book a lot from that way. Audiobooks is another great way to get experience as well, but a lot of them cast through these websites and these services. So once you have that set up, you can begin going to these sites, and some of them do have like a membership fee that is part of how they maintain their site, but you don't want to pay too much on that. Definitely do your research before you join anything like that to see if it's legit. But you can begin submitting to these auditions that are out there and getting experience through that. Even if it's just auditions, that helps you out, but then you start booking work, and some of them won't pay, but it's experience you can put on a resume. And once you begin to build up enough experience where you have a resume built of a few jobs you've done, that'll help you begin to look for more work and look like you have more experience out there. So that's how you start hitting the pavement. Once you begin getting a rapport with a lot of these directors or people that are starting out, student films and student projects are a great way to start, because a lot of these people that are in college now who are doing animation projects or doing student films, they're wanting to then become directors and animation directors for cartoons, video games, and television series there on out. And who knows where they'll go. I've had people who I worked with for free back in 2003 call me 10 years later and be like, hey man, remember that student film we did? Yeah, I had really fun working with you. I'm shooting this thing on the weekend for Verizon. Would you want to come and audition for it? I'm like, okay. You never know where people are going to go in this industry. So making those connections, even on the small scale, will help you tremendously in the long run. Then once you have a lot of experience and you're feeling like you can't really grow any further on the realm of representing yourself, you have to consider going to where the work is. Especially if you want to go into animation and games, there are only a few cities that are really casting in those areas. That involve New York, San Francisco to an extent, Los Angeles, Dallas, and Houston. Maybe other circuits as well that have smaller realms, but those are the big kind of hubs where a lot of casting goes for animation and video games. So you're going to have to move to where the work is to make a living doing it. That's one of the difficult steps, and it's a big step to make, and it's scary, but that's part of the journey. Then once you're in those places, you can find an agent, hopefully over time, and that's the big challenge. That may take you a while. You want to make sure you're ready and you have a very strong voiceover demo before you start looking for agents. And the good way to do that is to look for classes in those areas with casting directors that work a lot. Research these casting directors and see what projects they work on. And if they have a good amount of clout to their name, and you've done a workshop or two with them and they seem to like your work, you can go to them after and ask if they'd be willing to refer you to an agency. They're like, hey, if you really like this, what feedback do you have for me? Do you think I'm ready to pursue representation for an agency? And if so, do you have one you could recommend? And that's a really great way to then begin building into the professional aspect of your career. I mean, I could do a whole panel on that, but I hope that was a concise enough kind of path for you to consider. Yay! So much for me answering questions quickly. We're at 10:31. I think my panel's unfortunately closed. One more question? You're a saint. All right, one more question. Oh man, hands went up real fast. Let's see.
Pick Jude.
I have a number in my head between 1 and 10. What number is it?
5,
3. What'd you say?
7.
7 was the number. Sorry.
Go Jude!
So yes, what's your question?
Bring it.
So when actually working on Tales of Xillia, were there any particular moments you really enjoyed when voicing Alvin, and if not any in Xillia 2 that you enjoyed as Alvin?
So, Xillia and Xillia 2 is Alvin. Alvin is a fantastic character. I was
Alvin.
I was so sad when we finished the first game. I was like, oh, no more Alvin. And the producer was like, oh no, there's a sequel. More Alvin. He gets a goatee? More Alvin with goatee. See, he's such a great character, and I like the fact that, like all roguish characters are kind of fun, but he's a roguish character that betrays you multiple times.
But you love him.
You love him anyway. But I love the second game because you got to get more into his story and see kind of how he became the way he is. I love a lot of the party conversations, especially ones that tease Jude continuously. The Bazongas conversation is forever hilarious. Or any of his mentions of S&M with Milia's outfit are hilarious. But I actually really like his emotional moments. I like when he accidentally does something in the first game that hurts somebody.
Yeah.
Where you get to go from that kind of half-cocked smile, roguish personality to really angry and then intensely emotional character. I think it's when the facade breaks and you see that there are multiple facets to his personality, and that there is actually a lot of hurt and emotional struggle in him. So I really, really enjoyed those scenes. And the second one, especially when you start going into all the stuff with what's her name? Pressa, thank you. It's like Prexa? No, Pressa. There you start getting some emotional beats, and with his mom too. So I really enjoy all the moments that are kind of against most of the Alvin scenes you get a chance to see. So
He's my favorite Tails character.
Oh, he's my favorite Tails character too. I'm not biased or anything. Well, guys, that's unfortunately that's all the time I have. Thank you all so much for coming. You've been awesome. If I don't see you around, I gotta go get sleep. where is my schedule for tomorrow? There is a ridiculous read-throughs with a whole bunch of the VAs tomorrow at noon. You should come and watch that because that'll be fun. That's on the main stage. I'll see you guys there hopefully.
Yay!